Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And as you can see from the firearm I have on the table tonight, we're going to get to review something pretty darn unique, special, and collectible. Today we're going to be reviewing the Norinco Type 86S AK Bullpup, chambered in 7.62 by 39. This is one of 2,000 that were imported to the United States in the 1980s. It is a pre-ban rifle. And as I mentioned, it is a bullpup, and I have a few concerns with bullpups in general. But before I talk about those issues, I just want to say that this is a very highly collectible firearm. It's worth a lot of money, and they are very, very rare. And they're very sought after by people that love AK. So this is a really cool experience for me to actually get to hold one and to shoot one. Now, I mentioned that I have some concerns with bullpup rifles, and of course bullpup rifles give you the ballistic advantage of having a longer barrel but in a more compact package. You still have the action in the usual place in the receiver, but the trigger and the grip are moved forward. So my issues have always been, number one, the trigger. Many bullpups, when I dry fire them or fire them, have horrible triggers, and that's because you have to come up with some type of linkage from the trigger way up here all the way to the back where the action is. And many times that trigger linkage creates a horrible trigger pull. The other issue that I have is a safety concern. You know, occasionally guns do malfunction, and in catastrophic ways. Essentially, a gun is a machine that controls an explosive. That's what it does. And sometimes the guns go boom. And if you have a firearm like a AR-15 or an AK-47 set up in a traditional way, the action is out in front of you. You can still get hurt. You can have things come back into your face and hit your arms. But typically, if the barrel is going to blow out, it's away from your torso and most of your body. But when it comes to a bullpup, if you ever have a catastrophic malfunction, I've always been concerned having your face right here by the action. I've never been a big fan of that. Now, I haven't heard or seen any stories where that is an issue, but I'm just running the probabilities through my head. And so because of that, bullpups have really never appealed to me in a big way. Yeah, they definitely look cool, and the concept is really cool, but I've always had those safety concerns. But hopefully in this review, we're not going to have any of those. And I'm really excited to get a chance to shoot such a rare rifle. So before we get into the things that I like and don't like about this gun and take it to the range, as always, I want to thank the people that make these range reports possible. First and foremost is the owner of this really cool, rare, and expensive rifle. His name is Jack, and he's actually the second friend of the channel named Jack. So I guess we're going to call him Jack number 2. So thank you so much, Jack. It's an absolute honor to get to shoot the guns of your collection. As always, I want to thank my Patreon supporters, because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here. I couldn't do it without them. And if you guys want to see all of these videos early, you can join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month, and there's a link in the description below. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor for all of my range reports, who provides all of the ammunition, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And I know if you're watching a video like this, you like classic and rare guns. You probably have a wonderful collection of your own. Maybe you have a classic 1911 or a family heirloom Beretta 92 CZ75 or Browning High Power, and you've thought to yourself, it'd be really cool if I could get a set of one-off custom grips to show off this amazing gun. Well, I have the perfect company for you, Brownworks. Brownworks is, in my opinion, the best grip company in the world. Mark over there is an artist. He's a craftsman. Every grip that comes out of his shop is one of a kind, unique and made to order. He can put on custom logos, custom engravings, create grips out of laminate woods, and even apply things like snakeskin and alligator skin to the grips, giving them a unique look. Everything is made to order. Anything you can imagine and want, Mark can make. So I'm going to put a link to his website in the comments section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. I'm going to ask that you guys go over there, see what he has to offer, contact him, thank him for supporting channels like mine, because he keeps all this Second Amendment content coming on YouTube. And when you do contact him, please tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so once again, let's talk about this rifle and what it is. It is a Norinco, thus made in China, Type 86S AK variant, which is made into a Bullpup. It is a pre-band rifle. Even though it looks like it's very short, this is not a short-barreled rifle. It meets all the classifications and description of a Title I firearm, including a 16-inch barrel. This particular one is a very early import, and based off of the serial number is one of the first 100 that were imported. And because it's one of the early ones, this one has a straight charging handle. I read online that some of them have a curved charging handle. I haven't personally seen one, but it is worth noting because there are two variants of this rifle that were imported. So as always, let's talk about the things that I like and don't like about these guns before getting them to the range. And I always like to start with the positive first. And the first thing about this gun that I really like is how darn collectible it is. You guys know I consider myself to be a collector more than anything else, and a gun like this just appeals to me a lot, especially because it's a banned gun from importation. Now, a company could make a gun just like this in the US, but to have one that was made in China that is specifically banned, it just makes it collectible. You just kind of want one. It's cool, it's unique, and it's what the anti-gunners don't want us to have. And so just to be able to hold and shoot one of these just makes it cool off the charts. It's just an awesome rifle from that perspective. I also really like the aesthetics of this rifle. To me, it looks like it's a blend of four guns. Well, obviously, an AK-47 with the receiver here in the back. This little stock extension on the bottom of the receiver kind of reminds me of an Uzi. We have this big carry handle up here, which looks like a French FAMAS rifle, and I'm pretty sure that this vertical foregrip is borrowed from the Steyr AUG. And it just looks like a cool amalgamation of four really well-respected and awesome guns. So I really like the aesthetics of it. And even for a gun that is so old, it looks very modern today. And something that they changed on this rifle as compared to most AKs that I really like is the fact it does have a top charging handle. Way up here. It makes charging this firearm so easy as compared to a typical AK. Now I know some of you guys are saying, well, AK is not tough to charge, but the charging handle is on the right side of the gun. I am a big fan of using your support hand to charge the gun, and this allows you to do that. And I do like that design, and I think it's a big improvement over the right charging AK. Now, also, when I hold this, I'm a big fan of the length of pull. Now, that is one thing about bullpups that I really do like. I find them to be relatively ergonomic. So from the distance from the back of the gun to where the trigger is and how it just goes right into my shoulder, it feels very natural. It just has good ergonomics. But that's like most bullpups. But how does it shoot might be something completely different. The last thing about this gun that I'm really impressed with is the trigger. Now, I know in the beginning of this video I talked about how in general I don't like bullpup triggers. However, this trigger seems to be pretty darn good. Now, mechanically, this linkage is very simple. I've taken this gun apart and done a field strip video on it, and the only thing that seems to be connecting this trigger mechanism here in the front from the sear and the disconnector in the back is essentially a wire. It kind of looks like a coat hanger. It's not very sophisticated at all, but it really does seem to work. And maybe because it's so minimalistic, it gives this trigger pretty much the same pull and feel as a standard AK. And arguably, out of all of the bullpups I have ever shot or dry fired, this one honestly has the best trigger. In fact, let me go ahead and adjust the camera. Let me get the trigger pull weight gauge out, and let's actually see how heavy this trigger is, and I'll show you how it works a little bit more with a close-up. Alright, so I told you I would show you how nice this trigger is and to give you a close-up. Before I do want to show you that as I was preparing to film this segment, I cut my finger on the top of this gun and the charging handle. So I had to go inside, and yes, I am wearing a Minions Band-Aid. Apparently that's the only one that I have. So that's just the way we do it here at the Texas Gun Vault. So I do pour in all of my blood, sweat, and tears literally into these range reports. So I did cut my finger. So let me show you what this trigger actually looks like. We'll go ahead and drop the magazine and of course ensure there is no ammunition in it. We'll turn the gun over. Let's of course visually inspect that chamber, make sure that there is nothing in it. Looks like we are good. And now let me show you the trigger close up. We have quite a bit of take up, but you have a pretty predictable wall, and then it's pretty light on the brake, pretty crisp, and then on the reset, kind of long, but it's tactile and audible, and you are right back at that wall. It feels really good and feels like most AK triggers. I am very impressed with it. All right, so let's go ahead and get out the Lyman trigger pull gauge and let's see what this thing actually measures at. Let me go ahead and clear the averages. And here we go. This is a little bit awkward to do here on the table because this is a bullpup, but I will do my very best. And here we go. The first pull. 4 pounds, 6.8 ounces. Four pounds, 7.0 ounces. I think that one is going to be an anomaly. 3 pounds, 13.4 ounces. I kind of pulled it back kind of fast. As I said, this is a little bit on the awkward side. Then we have 4 pounds, 11.1 ounces. Three pounds, 15.6 ounces. I'm going to do a few more than normal. 4 pounds, 6.8 ounces. And then finally, 3 pounds, 5.7 ounces. So as you can see, if I pull the trigger back a little bit faster, I get a lighter trigger pull, and if I let it go to the wall or the brake, it's a little bit heavier, but still all well under 5 pounds. And all these trigger pulls gives me an average of 4 pounds, 2.6 ounces. That is a pretty darn light trigger for a bullpup rifle. So I'm pretty darn impressed with this thing. It has a very nice trigger and arguably the best bullpup trigger I have ever pulled. So that's all I can show you about the trigger. So let's get back to the rest of this range report. And as you can see, the trigger in this thing is actually pretty darn good. I'm very impressed with it for a bullpup trigger. But now let's talk about a couple things about this gun that I don't like. And the first thing is, it's a bullpup. And I've already told you about my concerns with bullpups, both the trigger and the safety. But the trigger does seem to be pretty good. So for this gun, it's just mainly going to be the safety issue. I just don't like having my head right up here against the action, right next to the ejection port. It just does give me a little bit of anxiety. The next thing that I don't like about this gun is the safety in its placement. It's not ambidextrous, and it kind of works in the opposite way of most other guns. In this gun, down essentially means that it's on safe, and up, it's on fire. Yeah, that's the opposite of an AR-15, and I find that just takes a little bit of getting used to. The next thing is the magazines. Now, when these were imported in the 1980s, they came with 3 magazines, one 10-round magazine and 2 20-round magazines. And I was getting this from Jack. I noticed he only had the 10-round magazine. And I was like, you know what? That's not really a big deal at all. I got a bunch of 30-round magazines at home. In fact, I have a really cool Texas Gun Vault laser engraved magazine from Magpul, which was given to me by Brownworks, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the range with these. But then I discovered something really interesting, in that it won't work because it rubs up on the pistol grip. I cannot get this to get inserted into this gun. It just will not work. Now, I've tried a few other magazines. It's just not happening. However, I do have a 40-round magazine, which is a lot longer, and it should clear that pistol grip. And lo and behold, it does. And it locks in there pretty darn good. So for this range report, I'm actually going to be using 40-round magazines. It does look kind of weird, but it works. So I have found that various magazines will not work in this. So maybe some 30-rounders will, but I personally did not find any or have any that work. But who knows, maybe some will. So I'm not saying it's a definitive answer when it comes to which magazines work in this, but for the ones that I have, which I have imported ones from Bulgaria, I have some Russian ones, I have PMags, none of them work. But as I said, maybe some of them would work for you if you had one of these rifles. The last thing that I don't like about this gun, honestly, is probably going to be the biggest problem with this, and that's going to be the sights. And let me show you what these sights look like. In the back, we have a little tiny peep sight. And let me tell you, the aperture for that peep sight is very, very tiny. And I got pretty good eyes. However, I have a hard time seeing through that thing. It's also in this carry handle. And so when you look through this peep sight, it really does give you tunnel vision. You can't see anything to the side of the sight. And when it comes to the front sight post, it's honestly kind of thick for the size of this aperture. These sights honestly suck. I really have a hard time getting a good sight picture, and my range where I'm going to be shooting is pretty darn dark. So I really can't see the point of impact, and sometimes finding that front sight is a little bit hard with this teeny tiny aperture. So yeah, the sights on this thing honestly suck. And yes, it was made before we have all the red dot optics and scopes that we have today. So it was designed with iron sights, but I really kind of feel like a ghost ring in the back would be the way to go. The only adjustments you have on these sights is you have a knob on the side for 100, 200, or 300 yards. So this adjusts elevation, and your windage is adjusted normally using an AK sight tool, which I don't have. So I'm hoping this thing is going to be on. All right, so that's all I know about this rifle and what I discovered here on the workbench. So let's get this thing to the range. I'm really excited to shoot it. So I'm going to load up one of these 40-round mags, but I'm only going to put 20 rounds through it at first. I just want to get my initial thoughts and impressions. I just want to make sure this thing functions, and of course make sure that it's safe to shoot. So I am a little bit on the anxious side. So let's go to the range. Let's see what the first shots are like, and let's see if there's anything about this gun that I discover that I don't like or like, and I'll report back to you. So here we go, 20 rounds, 10 yards. Let's see how this thing shoots. All right, so there's a number of things that I discovered shooting this that I really wasn't expecting. First off, this thing is really loud. After shooting it, I noticed that the gas tube actually has the gas ports on it. I kind of thought if you were going to move the action back towards your face, you would not want to have those gas ports. Some AKs have them, some of them do not. But I think that actually makes the gun a little bit gassy and a little bit louder than what it should be. But also, the mechanics of this gun are really loud, but that's because your head is right up against this thing and you hear it. If you ever shot an AR-15, you know the sound of that action spring in the buffer tube right next to your head. Well, this thing, you hear the action of this bolt and bolt carrier, and it's quite mechanical and it is quite loud, and you gotta be ready for that. This gun also has a little bit more recoil than I was expecting. AKs do hit a little bit harder than AR-15s, but I think having the action right here into your shoulder, right on the back of the receiver, and everything is metal, it just jostles you a little bit more than what I personally was expecting. And as I mentioned in the part of the video where I talk about the things that I don't like, these sights suck. It actually takes quite a long time to find your target through it. I don't know why that rear peep sight is so darn small. So if you have any vision problems or maybe use corrective lenses, you might not even be able to use this rifle at all. You might have to find some other type of sighting option for it. It is usable, I guess, and I've seen other videos on these where people don't seem to have a problem, but for me, this peep sight is just way too small. But I know I sound really negative on this thing, but let me tell you, the gun is still cool as heck. I can appreciate a gun that maybe is a little bit loud, a little bit gassy, and maybe not as fun to shoot, but I can still respect the heck out of it because it's so darn cool and so darn collectible. All right, so let's now double the distance on this target. I'm gonna go for the head on this silhouette. I'm gonna load up another magazine and just continue to see if this group stays. I know I was shooting a little bit high and a little bit to the left, but let's see if I can do any better. So here we go, double the distance, 20 more rounds. And wow, I am shooting way high and to the left. And I'm telling you guys, it's the sights. I know some of you guys are gonna laugh and say, Jason, you're a terrible shot. But you know what I am? I'm honest. Those are my actual shots. I could have refilmed that segment until I got it perfect, but I didn't. I always want to give you guys my personal thoughts, opinions, and experiences and what I document, and that is the way this gun is shooting. So I really feel like this gun is sighted in to be shot at a much further distance. Obviously, it is a rifle, it is an AK, but I don't have an AK front sight tool, so I can't adjust it, but it looks like it does need to be adjusted quite a bunch. But the sights honestly just suck. The other thing about this gun that I'm starting to notice that I don't like is actually the vertical foregrip. Now, I'm a huge fan of vertical foregrips. However, this one forces you to hold it a very particular way. I like to do a hold where I am matching my hand kind of to the receiver and to the handguard and grab it like this. Now obviously on this gun you would not want to do it because your hand would be right here on the barrel and on the gas block. So this vertical foregrip forces me to hold it way down here away from the gun. This is not as natural for me. I like to hold it more like this than like this. And this vertical foregrip does not give you that option. And obviously you don't want to hold it anywhere else out here because you're going to burn your hand. So you're forced doing it this way. And for me, it's not as ergonomic and not as comfortable. All right, so the next test I want to do is with a suppressor. Yeah, I want to put a suppressor on this really cool rifle, and I want to see if this suppressor is going to dampen some of the sound and make this gun a little bit more shootable. I don't know if it will, but AKs are not known to be the best suppressor hosts, but it is worth trying out. So here we go. Let me suppress this rifle and see if it changes anything, and I'll report back to you. And that's not something you get to see or do every day. Yeah, shoot a suppressed Norinco 86S. So what did I discover? Well, the suppressor makes the gun a lot more balanced. It feels more ergonomic, and it just has better weight distribution. Like most suppressed guns, it does dampen the recoil. But what it really doesn't do, I think, is make the gun hearing safe. The gun is very gassy. AKs just are not great suppressor hosts. We have the gas tube ports up here, and of course, having your face right here by the ejection port doesn't help at all. And of course, you still hear all the mechanics of the bolt and bolt carrier in the AK. So I would say this gun is probably not hearing safe with a suppressor, but it does make the shooting experience much more enjoyable. All right, so the next thing I want to do is the quick mag dump. I want to load up one of these 40-round mags and just shoot this thing as fast as I possibly can. Normally, the test that I do next is the shooting from a bench or barrier. However, being that this gun is a bullpup and I have to use these 40-round mags, we're just going to forego that because this gun just doesn't seem to be very accurate for me, so I don't think I'm going to get any usable data from that. So we're just going to go ahead and shoot this gun suppressed and do a mag dump with it, have some fun, and then we'll come back and I'll give you guys my final thoughts on this really cool AK variant. And because this trigger is so nice, I can actually shoot this thing pretty fast, but let me tell you, you can't keep it on target. The gun is rocking all over the place. It just has a lot of recoil. And of course, it's shooting way to the left. These sights definitely need to be adjusted, but it still is really darn cool. So what are my final thoughts on the Norinco Type 86S Bullpup AK variant? Well, let's just be honest. The collectability of this rifle, the coolness of this rifle is off the chart. I know if you're an AK guy, you're probably wanting something like this. But when it comes to the practical use of this rifle, its functionality, I am not impressed with it at all. It's one of those things where I think it is a solution looking for a problem, and that's generally the way that I look at the bullpups. I find this to be a little bit awkward to load, a little bit awkward to shoot. It's loud, it's gassy, and because of that, it detracts a little bit away from the shooting experience. Now, when it comes to the gun's accuracy, I'm just gonna say that if I had an AK sight tool, I might be able to get this thing right on. I wish the aperture was a lot bigger, but in general, the rear sight sucks and the front sight is simply off. So I really wasn't able to gauge the gun's accuracy, but I think it is grouping okay for the way that I was shooting it. It's just way off the target, but it was still fun to shoot. And that is what this gun is. It's a collectible. It's supposed to be fun to shoot. Now, if they would have been able to continue importing them for a long time, maybe I would have a different opinion on it. But still, I have to give this thing big marks for just being a cool collectible gun. So because this gun is so rare, I want to give it 2-star ratings. The first one is how I emotionally feel about this gun as a collector, and the other one is going to be how does it practically shoot. So what's the practical rating of this gun? Well, from a collectability standpoint, easily 4.5 stars out of 5. It is just cool. It has the right aesthetics. It has the right history. It's everything a gun collector wants. From a practical standpoint, I'm only going to give this thing 2.5 stars out of 5. Yeah, not very high. I did not enjoy shooting this one as much. I'm not very accurate with it. I don't find it to be very ergonomic. And I don't know, it's just a little bit gassy and loud. It's just not as fun to shoot. But this is definitely something really cool that I would want to have in the safe or hanging on the wall in a really nice collection room. So 2-star ratings. One as a collector and one as a shooter. So what do you guys think? Have you ever had an opportunity to see, handle, or shoot a Norinco 86S AK Bullpup? Something super, super darn rare. I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you're an AK lover, is this something you would have to have for your collection if you had the opportunity to get one? So let me know. And as always, thanks for watching.